Hello to the fine staff of the world-famous Detroit Tigers. My name is Tony Mills. I'm the president of Innovative Solutions, and I'm going to be consulting with you. At the risk of starting things off on a down note, you have a difficult problem, and you need a solution. It's interesting to note that innovative solutions to complex business problems are like great works of art. They stimulate emotions like what we feel when we look at great paintings or photographs. Consider these shots from photographer Jan Arthus Bertrand. They not only literally expand our horizons, but reveal new patterns in landscapes that we thought we already knew. A new theory, like Einstein's theory of relativity, does even more for us. It's a lens that lets us make new and accurate predictions. But the new theory doesn't give us new information. It just adds new perspectives to existing information. Facts we already knew when we were looking through the old lens, and it focuses our attention on important new information to seek out. A new way of looking at business problems can also make hidden patterns visible and uncover levers we can use to drive changes that have real impact. Consider Coca-Cola, a soft drink company, right? Wrong. According to the Evergreen Business Fortnightly website, Coke redescribed themselves as a conditioned reflex business. Doing so prompted its marketing department to figure out how to create stimuli that activates a customer's buy and consume routine so reliably that it becomes a reflex. They optimized the color of the beverage, the shape of the can, even the sounds in their commercials to trigger consumers' desire to have a Coke and a smile as a reflex action rather than a contemplated choice. While the challenges of business problems can involve huge sets of variables in consumer behavior, trends, market uncertainties, shifting competition, new technologies, and on, finding a way to see those variables in ways that clarify an insightful course of action isn't so different from seeing the world anew through Bertrand's lens or viewing time and space through Einstein's model. The trick is discovering a lens that will focus on the variables that matter, those that we can observe and control to bring about valuable change. To do that, we must look and see things differently. We get to insight by building and using a new lens, not just by collecting more data and analyzing it. As the saying goes, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had. So where do we start? Your president and CEO, Chris Ilitch, and I were having lunch about a week ago, and he said, "Our ticket sales are down, and we don't know how to fix it." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "I just told you. It's our ticket sales. They're in the tank." I said, "Yes, but what's the problem?" This circular conversation continued until I explained to him, and what I will explain to you, is that in business, we never have the luxury of starting with a well-defined problem. Things like, investments are tanking, what now? Or, costs have skyrocketed, what do we do about it? Or, morale is low, help, are not problems. At best, these are vaguely stated predicaments. What we must do is then turn these predicaments into precisely articulated problems that we can actually solve. So what is a well-defined problem? In short, it's the difference between the way things are and the way we want them to be. Precisely articulated means that we want to measure the most significant variables concerning where we are, the current conditions, and where we want to be, the desired conditions. We must define the period in which we will get from there to here, and we map out the space of all of the possible solutions. That is, the variations and combinations of all possible changes in the variables that we can influence to take us from here to there. A great example of a well-defined problem is a jigsaw puzzle. Say you have a stack of 9 square tiles, each with some kind of pattern. These represent the current conditions. You know that the solution to the puzzle is an arrangement of the 9 tiles in a 3x3 arrangement such that the patterns fit together. That is, they produce a clear image. Those are the desired conditions. The space of possible solutions, the solution search space, is all of the possible 3x3 combinations you can create using the 9 tiles that you have to work with. This problem is not simple, but it is well defined. You know what the solution should look like. You have the picture on the box that came with the puzzle. You can verify whether any configuration of the tiles matches that picture. You have the means to alter the position or rotation of any of the tiles to get closer to the solution of the puzzle. You also know that the solution is unique. That will help because you will be aiming to solve for one thing, not for any one of an infinite number of possibilities. Once you have a well-defined problem, you can write down the full solution search space and the rules for searching for a solution. So how do you best turn a vaguely articulated predicament, like how do we improve ticket sales, into a well-defined problem? Language is the key. It supplies the basis for posing problems. That is, for defining them. In business, we really end up only solving two kinds of problems: prediction problems and optimization problems. Prediction feels almost instinctual, whereas the concept of optimization seems mysterious and complicated. In reality, optimization is a natural process that all living creatures engage in at various levels of complexity. It goes like this. You list all of the options for solving a problem. You evaluate the net benefits of each of the alternatives. You compare the net benefits and rank the alternatives from best to worst. Finally, you pick the option with the highest net benefit. Optimization is rarely easy to do, but it is easy to understand and can stay that way if we remember those basic steps. All well-defined business problems are combinations of prediction and optimization problems. For example, the problem of what should we do about X can be broken down to the prediction problem, what happens if we do A, B, and C? And the optimization problem, what is the best way to get from X to Y? To get to a well-defined prediction optimization problem requires looking at a challenge through this lens of problem-solving language. It specifies the variables to try to predict and optimize over, the variables to control and observe, and the measures of performance of success. What we do next depends on the lens we choose, that is, our way of seeing the challenge. It allows us to focus on specific parts of the challenge, which will become the variables of our problem statement. Is this a duck or a rabbit? It depends on where you start looking. Start from the left and it looks like a duck. Start from the right and it looks like a rabbit. Problem-solving languages have the same lensing feature. You can see the challenge as one problem or another, depending on which language you use. The language is what guides your observation. To practice business problem-solving effectively, you need a method, a series of reliable steps that prescribe a set of actions, and guided by a goal. These steps are specify, estimate, measure, predict, optimize. This 5-step process takes us from an ill-defined challenge to a well-defined problem, which naturally breaks down into 2 sub-problems, predict and optimize, that are the workhorses of business problem solving. The business problems we face today are increasingly complex. Business tempo is faster, markets are more volatile, and the stakes are higher than ever. The number of variables involved can be enormous, and competition places a greater than ever premium on coming up with innovative solutions. Using flexible objects, or flexons, for generating original solutions provides a way of shaping difficult problems to reveal innovative solutions that we would otherwise never find. This approach is useful in a wide range of situations and at any level of analysis, from individuals to groups to organizations to industries. It's not a silver bullet for solving any problem anywhere, but it is an innovative mechanism to represent ambiguous, complex problems in a structured way to spawn better and more innovative solutions. I'll tell you a little bit more about each flexon before I get to the really exciting part. To understand how the network's flexon works, we need to view any business entity, a team, a group, a market, an institution, in relational terms, as a system of nodes and connections. Nodes are the basic entities we build our network around. These could be people, groups, teams, firms, things, facts, products. The connections, or links between the nodes, can be used to represent things such as the frequency of interactions among people, buyer-seller relationships, trust ties, friendships, information flows, etc. You must also figure out if the connections between the nodes are one-way or two-way. Questions to consider include who or what is related to who and what, and why. This allows us to specify the components of the networks, the nodes and the connections. What difference to the behavior of a team, a person, or a business do the differences in connections make? This allows us to estimate the effects of the network structure on the variables that we want to change. And how do we change the behavior of the business? By changing the structure of the network. This allows us to make predictions about changes in behavior and performance we can hope to achieve and to optimize the network for our purposes. A business is a massively complex object. To understand it, we must deconstruct it in terms of a set of individuals we can adjust or change in order to improve performance, which is exactly what a flexon, a flexible object, is designed to do. The decision agent flexon is a problem-solving language that functions as an imaging tool for framing challenges in terms of decisions and those who make them, the decision agents, along with their decision rights, incentives, expertise, information, and performance measures. The basic approach is to determine the right level of analysis, department, for example. Then you assign to them beliefs and motives consistent with what you know and what you think they know. Consider how their payoffs change through the actions of others. Determine the combinations of strategies they might collectively use, and seek a balance where no single agent can unilaterally deviate from the strategy without becoming worse off. Assessing a decision's effects on a complex business is a challenge, to say the least. To understand the likely long-term impact of a decision, you make the relationship between the variables of a system and the causes and effects of decisions clear and understandable. A system dynamics lens shows the world in terms of flows and accumulations of money, matter, energy, or information. It sheds light on a complex system by helping you to develop a map of the causal relationships among key variables, whether they are internal or external, subjectively or objectively measurable, or instantaneous or delayed in their effects. This final flexon provides a lens for viewing various parts of a business as information processing tasks, similar to the way such tasks are distributed out among different computers. It focuses on what information is used, the cost of the computations, and how efficiently the computational devices solve certain kinds of problems. In an organization, that device is simply a collection of people whose processes for considering and deciding are the most important explanatory variable of decision-making's effectiveness. If you haven't already, I certainly wouldn't blame you for having the thought right now, why are you telling me all of this? A recent article from Inc. magazine talks about how scary it can be when an organization makes big changes, especially when employees are kept in the dark. But if you involve employees in planning and strategizing, they have a stake in those changes, and they're more likely to follow through and stay committed. Ready for the good news? I've shared all of this with you because everyone watching this video is going to be using the flexons I talked about, not only to increase Detroit Tigers ticket sales, but to shatter records. Instead of spending tens of millions of dollars hiring some disconnected think tank to come up with so-called solutions that likely won't work anyway, Chris Ilitch instead is going to fly almost the entire front office staff, nearly 200 of you and your families, to beautiful Maui for 2 weeks. While there, you will be randomly assigned to small teams, and those teams will spend the entire day using one of the flexons to clearly define problems and find solutions. Every day for the first week, you will be randomly assigned to a new small team and will use a different flexon. But don't panic. You only need a basic familiarity with the different approaches to reframe problems and generate more innovative solutions. You all know this team and the variables better than anyone else. By the end of that week, you will collectively have generated more new ideas, more new ways of looking at things, and more real solutions than a stadium full of Harvard MBAs. As a bonus for your hard work and dedication, the second week is an all-expenses-paid vacation, compliments of Mr. Ilitch. In closing, it will be useful to know that the majority of the information about the flexons approach I spoke about comes from the book Design of Insight by Minea Moldovanov and Oliver Leclerc. I would recommend picking it up. It's fairly short. You can probably read it on the way to Maui. What are you waiting for? Start packing, and don't forget the sunscreen.